The story begins on the Whale Island, where the main character named Gon is fishing for the Lord of the Lake, whom only his father could catch before, thereby persuading her Aunt Nita to take the hunter's exam. Nita does not want to let Gon go, but Gon wants to know why his father left him due to work. With the upset of morning, Gon leaves, promising Nita to become a good hunter. Getting on a ship, he meets the same hunters as he is. Gon warns the captain of the ship about the coming terrible storm. A fierce storm is coming, turning over on the ship everything upside down. But the ship withstands and stays afloat. Gon tries to help everyone on the ship. The captain of the ship notices that not only Gon coped with seasickness. Then on board the ship, captain asks the guys to introduce themselves, and asks them why they want to become hunters. The captain recognizes in Gon his father, Jin, who also became a hunter. Leorio and Kurapika do not want to tell their reasons, however. The captain says that the exam for the hunter has already begun, and that if they do not want to answer, then they should be disqualified. The captain says that the examiners have a lot of their own troubles, and in order not to check each person, they hire people to do their work for them. He notified that the rest of the passengers failed the exam. Kurapika confessed that he is the last of his family who lost his loved ones to bandits 4 years ago, so he wants to become a hunter, in order to take revenge on the Ghost Squad. The captain warns him that this is a very strong squad of thugs. However, Kurapika is not afraid of death, and that he is only afraid that his rage may fade over time. Leorio says that he wants to become a hunter for money. Leorio and Kurapika do not get along and quarrel. At this moment a real tornado begins. Meanwhile Leorio and Kurapika start a fight, but one cabin boy falls overboard and Gon hurries to help him, since Leorio and Kurapika did not have time to grab him. With the help of common efforts they drag cabin boy back, thereby saving his life, and the tornado stops. Leorio and Kurapika lecture Gon for recklessness, but Gon assures them that everything went well. Cabin boy thanks them for saving his life. Then Kurapika and Leorio ask for forgiveness from each other, and become friends. Captain of ship notifies that they have passed the test for the exam, and decides to take them to the nearest point for the continuation of the exam. They safely reach the port and thank the captain. The captain gives free advice to Gon and points to the highest point of the mountain. Gon, Kurapika and Leorio stands at the map and decides where to go next. Gon decides to go himself, and Kurapika decides to go with him. But Leorio overhears that no bus has reached the appointed place yet, and also decides to go along with Gon and Kurapika. Meanwhile they get to a strange city where everyone wears masks. They meet a granny who gives a quiz consisting of one question, and if they all three give the wrong answer, they won't be able to become hunters. A guy appears behind them who followed them from the very port, and they decide to let him go ahead. The guy gives his answer, and Granny lets him go, but Leorio wants to go the other way, but if he does so, then he will be disqualified from the exam. To which he is angry and without knowing it gives the correct answer. Leorio decides to attack Granny, but then Kurapika stops him, stating that they won the victory, and the question did not need to be answered correctly. Since there is no right answer, Granny lets them pass and gives the next instruction, to reach the house at the foot of the cedar, where their next task awaits. Leorio apologizes to Granny, and she gives him her blessing, but Jin is still considering the answer, and says that if he one day has to save people dear to him, it will be a difficult choice. After a few hours they get to the house and discover an enchanted beast Ratfox. Ratfox escapes, but Jin and Kurapika follow him, and Leorio remains to provide first aid to the wounded. Jin hits Ratfox on the head, and Kurapika, meanwhile, saves the girl. Jin continues to rush after Ratfox, but then Kurapika discovers the girl's tattoos, and Leorio comes running, but in fact it's not him, but a werewolf. Kurapika puts a knife to the girl's throat, and finds out that they are all werewolves. Meanwhile, Gon, in pursuit of the werewolf, finds out that this is not the werewolf whom he hit. The werewolf asks him how he knew this, to which Gon replies that they are not at all similar to each other, based on the fact that they smell differently, which reveals their secret. The werewolves agree to take them to the exam site, and congratulate them on getting admission to the exam. Then they fly on werewolves to a city named Sabin, to the place conducting the exam. They reach a tall building where the exam will be held. But the entrance turns out to be not a tall building, but a small cafe near it. They order lunch for 3, and it turns out to be a secret password. The guide tells them that only 1 out of 10,000 people passes the exam and congratulates them. The room they enter turns out to be an elevator, and they go up. The guys argue about the life goal of the hunter, to which Leorio says that the hunters are paid well, and Kurapika claims that nobility and justice are the main principles of the hunters. In the meantime, they get to the right floor where they meet with other future hunters, but the atmosphere here looks unfriendly. They are given numbers, and they meet a guy named Tonpo, who is already taking the exam 35th time. He introduces them to the other applicants, but at that moment, one guy named Hisoka injures another applicant. Turns out that Hisoka killed the examiner in the past, and came to retake. Tonpo treats the guys with drinks, and it turns out to be a trick. The drink is laxative mixed in, but Gon exposes him. Then a silver-haired guy named Killia asks for a drink from Tonpo, and tells him not to worry about it, and tells that he was trained against poison for many years. In the meantime, the gate opens in which the gatekeeper stands. He negotiates the conditions and asks those who want to follow him. Suddenly he quickens his pace and they all start to run. The gatekeeper announces the first stage of the exam, where the condition is to follow him. This is a test of willpower. 2 hours have passed since the beginning of the exam. Many of the participants cannot stand it and give up. Leorio argues with Killia because he is using a skateboard. After which Killia and Gon get to know each other. Killia asks how much Gon is years old, and finds out that they are the same age. In the meantime, 4 hours have passed, but they are still running. Leorio is visited by gloomy thoughts, and he stops to rest, but changes his mind and decides to run further. Gon picks up his suitcase and also runs further. Gon and Killia argue over who will run first and speed up. Kurapika and Leorio also speed up, and Kurapika admits that his family was hunted because of their red eyes, which seem to light up when he overwhelmed with feelings. Kurapika vows to catch the ghost squad and take revenge. Then Leorio tells about his reason. He admits that he decided to become a hunter because he did not have enough money to save his friend, and wants to become a doctor. Gon asks Killia why does he want to become a hunter, but Killia replies that he doesn't want to become a hunter, and came to the exam because he heard that it would be difficult. Gon tells about his father and wants to know why his father left him and decided to become a hunter. They run to the finish line together, and can't figure out who came running first. Meanwhile, the next stage of the exam is to get through a foggy swamp filled with local creatures. But there happens a commotion. Hisoka checks the examiner for fakeness, and he dodges attacks. However, the examiner warns him about another such attempt, and he would have to withdraw him from the exam, to which Hisoka replies with understanding. The examiner warns them of the dangers, and tells them not to let him out of their sight, or they will never make it to the second stage of the exam. Everyone starts running after him in the swampy area, and the number of participants is reduced to 368 out of 404. The fog starts to thicken, and some of the participants decide to get rid of Hisoka. Killia advises Gon to speed up. In the fog they see all sorts of strange things in the form of long-necked turtles that attack people. However, this is not enough eccentricity. Strange mushrooms emit spores dangerous for people that cause growth on the skin. Mystical butterflies lull some participants with a flap of wings. In the fog, the participants imagine the examiner, but some fall into a trap in the form of spikes. And the examiner's voice imitated a raven with his human speech. Killia and Gon continue to run and fall into the mouth of a huge frog. Meanwhile, a huge turtle catches Leorio and Kurapika saves he. Killia and Gon are burped by a huge frog. Because of the soda reeking of poison, Gon worries about Kurapika and Leorio. Meanwhile, Hisoka is being attacked, but he laughs and kills other participants with one card. Kurapika and Leorio are left alone with Hisoka, and he offers them to pass his personal hunter exam. Meanwhile, Killia catches up with the main group, but doesn't find Gon next to him. Leorio and Kurapika decide to avoid the battle. But Hisoka turns out to be not so simple. They run away in different directions, thereby splitting up. But Leorio does not run away and attacks Hisoka. Hisoka got behind him and is going to kill him. Gon saves him with his fishing rod. Hisoka knocks out Leorio with one blow and grabs Gon, but enjoys the strangulation. But at the last moment lets him go. then throws Leorio's on his shoulders and leaves. At that moment Kurapika gets to Gon, and they run to the finish line. Gon asks why Hisoka said that they passed his exam. To which Kurapika replies that Hisoka may have his own criteria of grading and notices that Hisoka is a very talented person, but doesn't think that he will become a hunter. However, Gon also got excited and notices that this is rather strange. At this stage, 220 participants dropped out of the exam, and only 148 candidates remained. Leorio the whole beaten doesn't remember anything about what happened. The examiner says goodbye and reports about the second stage in the Bisca Forest Park. They are met by Manti and Bakar, the judges of the second stage. The second stage is cooking, in which the participants need to prepare a dish that the judges will like. The last examiner assumes that less than 10 people will pass the second stage. Bakar reports that the main ingredient is pork from the Bisca Forest. They announce the beginning, and everyone runs to hunt for pork, but the pigs turn out to be huge predatory boars. A flock of pigs runs after the guys, and rushes at everyone in its path. No weapon works on the pigs. When pig crashes into a tree and hits its head, Gon does not miss a chance, and beats the pig again on its forehead. Others, seeing this, also begin to beat the pigs on the forehead, and in the end, each participant brings a pig and start cooking. However, not all participants are to Manti's taste, and she declares that no one passes the stage. One of the participants tries to attack Manti, causing Bakar to intervene and prevent the strike. Manti demonstrates her skills with a knife. At this moment, Chairman Itaro from the commission asks Manti not to flunk everyone. He scolds Manti and she apologizes. To which the chairman asks to come up with a new task for the second stage. The chairman on his airship transfers everyone to the Split Mountain, and Manti announces that they need to get spider eggs and cook them. Manti again demonstrates her abilities and takes out an egg. The guys go down for the eggs. However, the ascending streams are not constant, and some participants fall into the abyss. The guys fall, grab the eggs and come back. The past participants cook the eggs, and are surprised how much they are tasty. In the meantime, 42 candidates remain, then they will have another test on the airship. Killua and Gon talk, and it turns out that all of Killua's family are bounty hunters, and jokingly says that he wants to catch everyone after becoming a hunter and hand them over, thereby earning a huge fortune. But at that time the chairman approaches them and invites them to play ball with him, explaining that whoever picks up the ball will immediately become a hunter. But they need to take the ball way before the airship sits down, that is, before 8 AM. But the old man wasn't easy, and Killua moves in a certain rhythm, creating many false images to confuse him, thereby showing the skill of hunters. But the old man quickly dodges, and this time it's Gon's turn to try to take the ball, but even the two of them will not be able to pick up the ball. And Gon decides to cheat, but they still fail. Gon doesn't give up and decides to try further. Killua on the verge of killing 2 participants, and says that if he hadn't stopped, he could have killed the old man. Gon tries to pick up the ball again, but fails and falls asleep. The third stage of the exam begins at the top of the tower, and in order to pass to the next stage, they will need to reach its base in 72 hours. But everything turns out to be not so simple, and human-like monsters interfere them on the way. Gon finds secret passages, splitting up. Everyone jumps into the aisles, but they all end up in the same room. But without a 5th person they can't go further. Their already familiar old man Tompo becomes the 5th and they go further. And their path is blocked by prisoners of the tower. They need to be defeated one by one. Tompo goes first and immediately surrenders. Gon comes second. His opponent decides to play a game where they need to light candles at the same time. This candle is the first to go out loses. However, Gon needs to choose which candle to take, the long or short one. The majority opinion also applies here, so the guys tell Gon to decide for himself, relying on Gon's instinct. However, the wind rises and Gon's candle almost goes out. Gon's flame becomes stronger, and the candle burns out faster. But Gon wins by blowing off the opponent's candle. Kurapika comes third, and his opponent wants to kill him to make the 20th victim. The battle begins, on which Kurapika easily agrees, but any weapons are forbidden, and only hand-to-hand fighting is allowed. The prisoner tenses his muscles and gets bigger to intimidate Kurapika, and shows his tattoo of a spider, which turns out to be the mark of a troop of phantoms, a notorious gang of villains. to which Kurapika is overcome with rage and knocks him out with his face on the ground. Kurapika hates spiders, and therefore gets angry every time. Then Leorio participates in the fourth battle, but the fight will not start until Kurapika's opponent dies. It turns out that the prisoner is still breathing, but Kurapika refuses to finish him off. Killua offers him to kill his opponent, but refuses to intervene in his fight. Everyone decides to wait until he wakes up. In the meantime, Hisoka finds himself in the same room with the prisoner who wants to take revenge on Hisoka for leaving scars and attacks him with spinning blades. However, Hisoka catches 2 blades and cuts off his head, thereby passing to the next stage of the exam. Meanwhile, Kurapika's opponent doesn't move for a long time, and the guys think that he is dead. However, the next prisoner invites them to bet on whether he is alive or not, and offers to bet on time. Bets are placed on 10 hours. Whoever has 0 hours left loses. The guys agree, and Leorio puts 10 hours on the fact that the prisoner is alive. 10 hours are taken away from opponents. However, it turns out that the prisoner is pretending, and Leorio argues about whether he is unconscious or not. Leorio offers to drop him down to find out if he is unconscious or not. The guys have 20 hours left. Leorio knew that the prisoner was faking, so he threw him down to come to his senses, which gives them 1 point in their favor, but they lose in time with a score of 80-20. Prisoner rips off the mask, and it turns out that this is a nice girl in prison for a long time due to fraud and tricks. Leorio is again the loser, and this time he decides to play rock, paper and scissors and loses. Killua enters the last duel. However, he goes against the most dangerous of the prisoners, Johns the meat grinder, sentenced to 968 years for a series of murders which he killed with his bare hands. However, Killua is not afraid and opposes him. A mortal battle begins, and Killua rips out his heart. The rest of the guys find out that Killua comes from a family of murderers. Then they go to the room where they will spend 50 hours that they lost. Meanwhile, the rest of the participants get to the finish line. Gon and the others enter the room, and Kurapika asks Killua how he could learn such a technique. To which Killua replies that there is no technique, and that he just changed his body a little, and that he is a professional killer. The guys spend 50 hours in the room doing different things. Meantime, the rest of the other participants keep coming. The guys still spend their hours in the room. Finally, 50 hours pass and they go out. They spend another 9 hours looking for a way out, and finally, they have only 1 hour left. They have only 1 task left where they need to decide which way to get to the finish line. The first way will get only 3 people, but in 3 minutes, and in the second they will get everyone, but in 42 hours. Gon wants to choose the second way, but the guys dissuade him. Suddenly Tonpo will attack everyone with a swing of an axe, and Leorio fights against him. Meanwhile, there is only 1 minute left, and Gon, having managed to unite everyone by choosing the second path, but having made a hole in the wall on the first path, they reach the finish line with common efforts, and finishes the third exam.